Kabul under siege. For 20 hours in mid-September, the U.S. Embassy and the compound for NATO in Kabul were under attack. The battle near the U.S. Embassy and 3 suicide attacks in other parts of the city were a stark reminder of the militants' resources and reach as foreign troops start to return home. Now, in testimony before Congress, America's top military advisor says that Pakistan's Haqqani network, with the support of Pakistan's intelligence service, the ISI, played a role in those attacks.
Is it satisfying for you to see the Americans, the likes of Mike Mullen, now openly saying that there is a serious problem as far as Pakistan and terror linkages are concerned?
This is exactly what we have been conveying to our interlocutors from United States whenever an occasion arose. That India always believed that ISI and the Haqqani group, they are working together, and they were helping terrorist organizations to sabotage India's developmental agenda.
The 2 or 3 points which come out very clearly from this leak is, number 1 is the catastrophic failure of the US intelligence service. If the US intelligence service cannot protect its own classified archive, this is precisely the reason why the US is losing in Afghanistan. To say that US and NATO have lost in Afghanistan because of ISI would be barking up the wrong tree, would be a total, absolute, colossal misjudgment, misanalysis, wrong analysis of the situation in Afghanistan.
You see, these drone attacks have been going on against Pakistan for the last 6 years. But primarily, in the last few months, we see an incredible number, an increase in the number of these attacks. And the reason is that the Americans are losing their war in Afghanistan. There's desperation, there's panic, there's total confusion in the US policy for Afghanistan. On one hand, they're talking of an exit strategy. On the other hand, they talk about troop surge. They talk about reconciliation with Afghan Taliban. And on the other hand, they continue to support the illegitimate Karzai regime.
We believe that the CIA is allowing RAW, Research and Intelligence Analysis Wing of Indian Secret Service, to wage this campaign in Pakistan. And CIA, by allowing RAW to do this, is actually partners in crime. The American Navy SEALs in the Abbottabad operation came to achieve 4 or 5 objectives. And the biggest objective was to create a reason and justification for the American extraction from Afghanistan. The American had needed a reason to leave Afghanistan because they're losing a war, their economy is not sustaining it.
Was Osama there?
I don't believe this. Most of the Pakistanis don't believe this. And Americans have not done anything to help this perception.
Nowadays, media and information warfare weapon systems, which we call the weapons of mass deception, they play a much bigger role than the physical armed forces against any nation or against any civilization.
The real weapons, yeah.
The real weapons. So, in the modern world, the so-called war on terror, if I tell you what actually war on terror stands for, it's the name of war on terror. We all are discussing terrorism, but nobody has yet defined what terror is. And the American war on terror actually has 6 grand strategic objectives underneath it. They are waging a war in the Middle East. They are reshaping Middle East. They are changing the geography of the Muslim world. They are waging war one after another on every Muslim land. They are breaking down large Muslim countries into smaller nations, like Sudan has been broken down, Libya has been broken down, Iraq has been decapitated, Afghanistan has been dismantled. Now thereafter Iran and Pakistan as well. Syria has been attacked. So, and everything is being done under the generic name of war on terror. So what is actually the American objective? The American objective is defense and security of Israel, and the denuclearization of the Muslim world, then the control of fuel assets, then the destruction of political Islam, then containment of Russia and containment of China. All these grand strategic objectives come under the generic word of war on terror.
You see, one thing that I'm not going to deny is that Pakistan has been supporting the NATO and the Americans and the Afghan transit trade. and hundreds of thousands of containers of equipment, weapons and supplies passed through Pakistan to support the occupation forces.
Yes,
I don't deny that.
But they've been hedging their bets, haven't they? Yes, they've been doing that. And then Directorate S of the ISI has been there supporting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, hasn't it?
You see, this is where the funny part is, because when we supported the Afghan Mujahideen in the 80s, we supported them with logistical supplies, base areas, training camps and a massive military support coming from Pakistan to defeat the Soviet Union. Now, if the same superpower, similar superpower, the Americans and the NATO are being defeated in Afghanistan, but the ISI and the Pakistan army are fighting a war of their own within the Pakistani borders, the basic question that the Pakistani army asks is, who is supporting the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan? Pakistan army already has its hands full in fighting insurgencies in Balochistan and TTP with almost 100,000 Pakistanis killed and wounded. Now, for God's sake, especially after the massacre of the Pakistani soldiers, the NATO supply line has been blocked for the last 2 months now, and that's unprecedented. But more importantly, what happened is that when the supply line was blocked and Pakistan army saw the hardware that was going into Afghanistan, it made the Pakistan army very alarmed. Because if the Americans on one hand are talking of leaving Afghanistan, on the other hand the hardware, about 3,500 military vehicles and 5,000 containers full of weapons and explosives and ammunitions, which means that it's an invasion level build-up. Almost 7 to 9 armored infantry divisions are going in. With the reports that the Americans are also bringing in Abrams M1A1 main battle tanks from Iraq into Afghanistan.
We Pakistani patriots are warning the Indians and the Americans. We are not Iraq, we are not Afghanistan. We are an Islamic army, nuclear armed. Your supply lines in Afghanistan go through Pakistan. Your 150,000 troops will be slaughtered and butchered if we do to you what we did to the Soviets. Do not forget that Pakistan broke down Soviet Union. We changed the geography, we changed the politics, and we can do the same to you.